This is Rob from Flourish and Plan. Getting ready to do day 3 of Diamine's Inkvent calendar. I hope you're all familiar with the process by this point, but just a quick recap. We'll do an unboxing. So this is your warning. There will be spoiler alerts ahead. We are going to unbox day number 3 and pop out that day's ink and give it a good swatch and see what it can do. So without further ado, let's do this. We've got an ink called Carousel. It's red, and it is a pigment. I've not played with a pigment ink before, so this should be fun. From what I understand, pigment inks are safe to use in dip nibs, so that's what we'll be going with today. I have a Kakimori steel dip nib in a Tachikawa holder. I have a Sailor Hokuro dip nib pen, and it is a 2mm stub nib. And then I have a Dominant Industry glass pen that is a traditional glass pen on one end and an ink muddler on the other end. You can get some pretty interesting effects from that. I will do my standard, for this Diamine Inkvent calendar, standard coloring card that I have stamped with Anna Reinhardt's ink stamp set from the Well-Appointed Desk using a archival quality black ink, and I've also got a Kokuyo Endless stamp set label across the top, so it's easier for me to find as I tick through the Rolodex file. I'll be making swatches on those cards on a Midori cream notebook paper that's got a light grid on it. Each page will have its own. And also I've got one extra spare page in my 2025 Hobonichi Cousin, and it is the right-hand side page of the December 2024 calendar, the monthly calendar. So I should have enough space here to do all 25 inks with small swatches, and that's to test the bleed through. This is the 2025 version of the Hobonichi Cousin. This is considered one of the bad batches. You can see a lot of bleed through. And both samples that I have used so far from the Inkvent calendar have bled through to some extent. I'm expecting the majority of them to bleed through on this paper, but I wanted to give you an extreme example of what will happen. The Midori cream paper has been much more reliable with some, medium to heavy shadowing, but no bleed through on either swatch. And of course the coloring cards are not bleeding through, with the exception of the ink that I used for the stamps. But the fountain pens that we're swatching are not bleeding through. So that is our paper setup. Let's give this a whirl. I have zero experience with pigment-based inks, so this will be a fun trip down a science experiment lane for me. I will say I've been thoroughly enjoying the glass nib on this Dominant Industry ink muddler. For my ink blob test, I try to make it look like ink has spilled out of the stamp. show off any shading properties that pop up or any of the other ink characteristics. We'll see what that does. I noticed that with the pigment ink, it did not come clean simply by rinsing. I had to actually physically, manually move it off with a towel, which is interesting. I'll do a little ink splotch here too. My little pattern of sparkles. And we'll drop a little extra ink on the bottom to see what happens when it puddles. I shouldn't have rinsed that just yet. Just as an aside, because of my experience with this 2025 Hobonichi paper, I decided to not go with the Hobonichi for 2026. I've switched to a Wonderland 222 A5 all-in-one core, all-in-one unstacked to as closely duplicate my Hobonichi experience as possible with hopefully better quality paper. We'll give that a chance to dry to see what the bleed through situation is like. And in the meantime, first impressions of pigment inks are very opaque and very richly saturated. I'm gonna have to do a little research to see what they can do to fountain pens. I'm a little concerned about what it can do to the inner mechanics, the workings of the fountain pens. I don't want to harm any of my fountain pens. I have a range of fountain pens from, platinum preppies all the way up to, fancier pens like Sailor Pro Gears and Esterbrook Essies. And I don't have Nakaya level gear, but I do have valuable gear and I don't want to ruin anything. So I will be keeping an eye on that and doing a little research before I put that in anything. Let's just label this ink with the date that we did it. So far we've got a blue, a purple, and a red. I'm hoping that the full spectrum and complete characteristic profile is going to be available through this month of Advent calendar goodness. All right, let's take a look and see what kind of results we've got. This is the coloring card. Looks very, very opaque and well saturated. Zero bleed through. Fully dry. This is the MD paper notebook. I can already tell it's not fully dry where I puddled there, but the writing is, and that looks great. Zero bleed through. it did transfer a little bit when I touched that, so it's not quite dry. Grab a piece of blotting paper and see if I can soak up some excess. A fair amount came up. Can be expected when you're doing a puddle test like that. Ink takes time to dry. But I'm impatient and I want to close this book up so that we can take a look at the Tomoe River. That is dry, shockingly, dried very fast, and bleed through. I apologize about the deco. This is actually a functional planner, so this was my January monthly spread. So I've got stickers and markers and fountain pens in here, so it's going to be in the way, but you can still see that is bleed through from day 3 here. So we've got great coverage, iffy coverage. It's unfortunate that this happened with Hobonichi. I'm really hopeful that they are getting that solved. The tests that I did earlier this year were very promising, so I have high hopes for those of you that stuck with it. All right, that is the end of day 3. I will be holding off on posting this until the morning of the 3rd. As I film this, it is the evening of the 2nd, so I will be waiting to post this on the 3rd, so there are no spoiler alerts before it should be appropriate. If you could go ahead and give me a heart or a like on this video, I would really appreciate spreading the word. And if you have any comments or questions, I love to interact with people in the comment section. So please, please, please hit me up. There is no question that is off the table. Please hit me up with everything you can think of. And as always, take care of yourself and take care of each other. Have a great evening.